There have always been those who wanted to control others. There have always been those who believed that they were born to rule and the others were born to serve. And today there are people in key positions in our government who believe in an authoritarian society. And they're working to take away our freedom, to centralize all power in Washington, D.C., and to create a horror for the future.
To understand the true motives behind some of this legislation and some of these contingency plans and some of these regulations, you only have to read George Orwell's book, 1984. And you find that back in 1948, when this was written, they foresaw a future society where everyone was just a cog in the machine and everyone was labeled, numbered, identified, and this was before the age of the computer. So they've been working at this for some time, but now it's coming to fruition thanks to digitization and computerization.
Let's think outside the cage for a second. If we are indeed moving towards an Orwellian 1984 scenario, and if information is being controlled and withheld and manipulated and massaged to direct the people towards a certain agenda, doesn't common sense also tell us that for those that refuse to fit into the mold, that continually think outside of the cage, those people are going to have to be somehow discredited. They're going to have to be ridiculed. They're going to have to be demonized and persecuted.
The U.S. government is increasingly putting money toward military operations, referred to as military operations other than war. These are often seen as non-lethal weapons. DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, has a number of weapons that they call soft kill weapons. The weapons sort of where you wish you were dead, you just weren't killed when they were used, because they can be very painful, they can be very damaging. Acoustic weapons that can destroy the hearing of people, lasers that destroy sight, microwave weapons, active denial weapons, as they're called. One that is now being utilized in Iraq called Project Sheriff. These weapons are devastating. They can cause intense burning. I mean, real intense burning, up to 120, 130 degrees, in which an individual feels as though they're about to die, and unless the laser or the microwave is removed from them, there is no relief from the pain. What frightens me is that these weapons are used not for a war zone, but for a community, a city, a riot control situation.
I think their end goal is to find some way to reverse our freedoms and our rights to do the things that have been guaranteed us by our Constitution. And I think that our president in particular wishes to skirt his responsibilities and take advantage of doing what he wants without having legal permission worldwide and also in the United States. I think our forefathers would roll over in their graves knowing that we were rescinding as many rights to fight a war that is an unjust, immoral, and illegal war. And I think that there's a larger plan behind this. I think that the reason they're doing that is not just to protect this country or its people, but I think it's to control the people. I think it is in an effort to take freedoms away so that our people en masse don't know what's really happening, and they keep them in a state of fear. And if they're in a state of fear, they're easy to control.
The Founding Fathers pledged their lives and their fortunes and their sacred honor. I don't think it's too far of a leap to understand that your elected officials are certainly not going to pledge their lives. They're not going to pledge a penny of their fortune. And by these two, they demonstrate that they have no sacred honor. How many of your elected officials have sons or daughters that are serving in the Iraq War? I think you start to understand what's going on here. We, the people, are their cannon fodder. They have sent our sons and daughters to fight their wars so that they can have their spoils. This is what it's all about. It's imperialism and it's fascism. And some folks hear that and say, oh, you must be anti-patriotic or anti-government. I am not anti-government. This government is supposed to be of, by, and for the people. This government is supposed to be following the guidelines or the rule book, which is called the United States Constitution.
Here's where I think that we have the power, is that there are about 1,000 of politicians down in Washington, D.C. There are 200 million adults in this country. Why we are letting them get away with what they are, why we're not marching in the streets, why we are not actually down there physically extracting them from their offices and firing them. I mean, if we had employees in our individual businesses that were treating us like our government employees are treating us, they would be fired. They'd be out. We have come to this position in our thinking that they are the government and they are in control. And unfortunately, that old saying of the people get the government that they deserve, apathy and lack of participation has led to this particular point in time. And unless we do something to change that and reverse the tide and put the government back into the position where they should be, which is our servant and working for us, we're going to get the government that we deserve.
If there were any one thing that I could change, I think it would be to go back to a true constitutional form of government in which there would be true accountability. The problem we have right now is that the judicial system is not accountable. The executive system is not accountable. And so therefore, we have a government run amok that controls its people with many, many regulations and laws, many of which are not constitutional. So to return to a constitutional form of government is an absolute. We have to do that. And without that, we have no hope.